this is Stan Bush, and you're listening to Only in One Take Radio.
You are listening to Only in One Take Radio with musician Stan Bush. Now, you're all familiar with his work from the 1980s Transformers the movie, Bloodsport, and many others. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic, man. So what have we been up to? Have you been doing any new releases or any touring or anything we can possibly expect we haven't heard yet?
Yeah, I'm working on a new album, very close to finishing it. Looking for probably summer, if not late summer release, and it's really been a labor of love for the last 5 years, really. I guess the last album came out in 2020, so yeah, this will be five years. It's coming out great. There's a couple songs have been released before as singles, during the last couple of years. 2 of them were in a movie, and I can tell you about that stuff. And there's a sequel they're working on for that movie. It's a martial arts film that's going to be a film maybe next year, but I'm going to go ahead and put the song on the album. So
you have such a very energetic and very positive outlook on all of your music, and releasing album by album, do you feel it's necessary to separate between spacing out the albums or even a single, rather than having to exhaust every X amount of months, and then you have to kind of replenish it going through touring or whatever? Do you feel it's necessary to kind of separate between months or even years without exhausting the material?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes, it's sort of been for me. It just takes me a good amount of time to come up with something that I feel is really strong, and then record it, and that's a big process too. So my producer Holger Pfaff, he's produced the last 6 albums of mine, and he's great. He's my best friend and great guitar player, and he does keyboards and everything else. So that takes time, because the nice thing is when you're recording at home, there's no clock on the wall, so that takes away a lot of the anxiety. The way it just kind of comes out, and then when I have enough great songs to release a new album, I do that. And I realize that a lot of people do just release singles, and you could certainly do it that way. But in my case, like I say, I think 3 of these have been released as singles already, but then they're going to be included in the next new album. So anyway, it's going good. It's going great. I'm really excited about it, and we're looking forward to making some noise here.
With the kind of style that you flow with all your albums and anything in general, whether it's film, whether it's your own stuff, do you feel like it's best to keep moving forward, not to look back on your previous work and say, well, maybe I need, make it like this or like that? Do you actually take notes from your own work just so you can make something even different but still similar at the same time?
It is a tendency to do that, I guess, to try to improve on what you've already done, sort of thing. I try to be fresh and new with the ideas and so forth. It's really hard, first of all, to even write something that, that I feel has not been sort of done. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard to be original. Do a lot of key changes and things like that, where you're like, wow, where did that come from? It's like a surprise. But and I appreciate what you said a minute ago about positive stuff. I always try to keep a positive outlook. It's a cool thing. Like each of us has this spirituality that we don't even realize we have. I think a lot of people, you don't know what you can't do, kind of thing. It's amazing when you really go for it and push yourself. And I don't know, I've always had that sort of positive attitude. It's like each of us, we kind of make our own reality.
Yeah, artists always have to get their work out there to be noticed, and everybody wants that. But do you feel it's harder for an artist to monetize with their own work? Do you feel artists have to almost have to force to be creative to get the work out there, despite with all the social media and how to get all their stuff out there? Do you feel it's getting harder to monetize because everything's becoming more and more digital?
Yeah, I definitely hear you. That's one of the age-old problems so many bands have had, is they work for years and years coming up with that very first album, and then if it does well, then they gotta immediately write a second album in 2 months or something. It's just impossible to keep that level of creativity. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. It just kind of works that way. It's just hard to follow it. With something else that's really good. That's one of the things about songwriting too. Is to me, it's very challenging. It's like a puzzle. when something really works, you just kind of know it in your bones. It's very cool. It's a cool feeling. I'm trying to write deeper stuff, and like I say, not all of them are like more spiritual things, but I have a lot of fight songs. I guess you you probably know that. I sort of fell into that years ago. The Touch, of course, is like a song about believe in yourself and go for it, and that was a very cool feeling. The Transformers brand, I've been associated with them for coming up on 40 years. Will be since 1986 when the original Transformers movie came out. My song "The Touch" and "Dare," those songs are still a huge part of my identity, as an artist. So, we're just trying to not copy what I did, but build on it. Like Holger, my producer, I told you about, his son. He was an Army Ranger, and he said a lot of those guys are like big fans of mine. I mean, they love the Van Damme stuff, and but also just the general go for it, be a badass and all that. You know what I mean? The war thing. It's really cool. Like the song "Warrior," for instance, that was one of the songs that he liked the most. Some of the guys that, when they were training, they would play those songs, and some of that stuff has been in Transformers associated games and TV shows and films and whatnot. And go for it thing is really cool. I grew up in, like I said earlier, music, 70s and 80s. The a lot of the 80s songs, to me, the 80s anthem was the best. That like Rocky and songs like that, Eye of the Tiger. Where you have like the good guy wins and stuff, and the movies back then were amazing. You'd have like Karate Kid or whatever it is, or Dan Halen songs, or what's that one with Back to the Future. Like every one of those movies would be like amazing songs, and you come out of the theater singing the songs. It was like, wow. I love that anthem thing. That was kind of the school of songwriting that I did a lot of that kind of thing, because I like songs that are memorable.
Now, when songs like you mentioned, like You've Got Touch, and including Fight to Survive, these songs like made such a great success, intentionally or even unintentionally, even by accident, oftentimes. But do you feel that in today's industry, is it harder to commercialize songs? Do you feel like you have to commercialize your own song to get out there? Do you feel that it's even just as hard is today as it was in the 80s and stuff like that? I mean, unless these companies notice like, hey, we want to use that and so forth, I think that'd be great. Do you think it's harder today for them to get into anything at this point, except for obviously streaming?
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, it's always been sort of hard, I guess, very competitive and whatnot, but the record companies, they would always sign, 10 bands, and one of them would do well and that kind of thing. So it's kind of they're just hedging their bet, by putting out 10 things and expecting one of them to sell. But I think when you can get something in a movie, or that's one of the best ways to really get it out there. After that Rocky thing, I think everybody tried to get their songs in movies and things. So it got harder as far as that. But yeah, the songs that you remember, I think, are the ones that people want to hear. And the typical model of a record company back then is totally different than nowadays. It's sort of like with the internet, and everybody's trying to get their songs, music videos. But it's sort of like you just keep doing it, and after, in my case, like 15 albums and 30 years or something, you have like this following all around the world. It's it's not huge, but to me it's really important. I love my fans and things. I mean, they're really wonderful, and I think they like the music, so I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can.
And to an aspect of things, business-wise, like having to get your work out there, when you are solely living off of your own music, your own vision, your own creativity in this world, is it even harder to get your past songs to generate some revenue, or does an artist have to wait for these songs to, quote, age, just so they get a couple bucks from the companies that they want to use it for, whatever project they want to use it for, regardless if it's record companies or even film or television or whatever?
Yeah, it's kind of all the above. I mean, I get contacted often, lower budget projects and whatever, films and TV shows and things, and or video games. People know my music. Like I say, it's become more and more sort of like a song like "Fight to Survive." I mean, that from the original Bloodsport movie on YouTube, it's like 25 million views or something. It's huge. There's a ton of other songs that maybe of mine that'll have like 500,000 or 3 or 4 million views. I forget what it is the Touch is up to, but it's pretty it's pretty high too. But it's just one of those things you try to submit things, but so much material, and I guess there are a lot of bands out there that literally would license their music for free just to get the exposure. So it's competitive in that regard. Like I say, I've managed to do well, and it's pretty cool to have the ability to be able to write songs and make a living at it. One of the things too is I think I've come a long ways as far as being a writer. Like the lyrics are the hardest part. I think I gave up too soon back in the early days. Some of my earlier songs, it's like, oh man, did I really write that? Try to say something important or say it in such a way that you really strike a nerve or something. It's a cool feeling.
And every era is different too. Your 70s, 80s, and so forth. Every cycle is different, but I also have some formalities are similar as far as that business aspect. Do you feel like new artists or artists that's been around for a while but having to get their music out there, sure, get an album for free, sure, to stream or even give away, that's okay. But do you feel that even though they're getting it out there, do you think they still have to put a little bit of a price on it for people to listen to? Like, here's a single for free, but you can get the rest of the album for, let's say, $1 for whatever, da-da-da.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go. Just introductory offer deal, and just to get them. That's one of the upsides, I guess, with the internet is, anybody with a computer can be a record label now. You have like these services that'll you can release your music on, and for a small fee, and they'll, you have to sort of promote it yourself, but a lot of times there'll be some other compelling issue or reason for somebody to listen to it. I like the creative side. That's one of the things that kind of went away. Like music got really corporate when they started having, I want to say the 80s hair bands. It got to the point where it was all sounded corporate. You know what I mean? And then the 90s, you had that grunge thing came in, and it was all attitude, and angst, a lot of that kind of feeling. And then the music that I used to do, the 80s rock thing, sort of imploded. I mean, just went away for years, at least in the U.S. Most of my business that I did, as far as records and recording and whatnot, was in Europe and Japan. So I toured several times over there, and particularly in Europe, and kind of kept my career going during those years. And then once the 2000s came in, then rock sort of resurged again, and it was cool. I mean, it's like even now people still love that kind of stuff. It's funny because the 80s thing, a lot of these guys that grew up singing, we grew up listening to in the 80s, and they're still around, a lot of them, but it's just they don't sing like they did then, you know what I mean? And it's hard to do that, and keep coming up with new stuff. Plus the budgets, recording budgets were huge back then. I mean, you get like some of these bands, you get like $200,000 or more just for an album budget,
Do you feel that record labels between past and today, do you feel like they're partially responsible for changing genres? Because obviously it's a business and so forth, but do you feel differently between what you did in the past with let's say the 80s in comparison what they are currently doing with other, like, let's say indie artists or even semi-established artists?
I'm trying to be true to what my roots and so forth. I think I'm doing that, and I'm just getting better at it. I love sequencers and power guitars, and especially melodies. I'm all about the melodies that are catchy and you remember them, and just something that's really powerful. I think my voice is probably at least as good as it's always been. I've kept that going at least. I think a lot of people had to go on tour for years and years. I didn't have to do that. I don't know. It's just not something that appealed to me. Well, I guess I didn't have a big enough success the time when, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys, they would they would go on tour for months and months, and it's a hard life. I mean, you come back and the dog bites you. The music, though, is really, that's kind of what it's about, that you believe in, and that you feel like will reach the fans and so forth. I think that's the key.
Creating an album or other body of work, do you feel an artist should have other works specifically dedicated to other media, like I said, for like film or anything, other projects like outside their own realm? Do you feel just so they can stay not just relevant but still consistent with their work, but also to generate some income, like back income for themselves, rather than having to just solely focus on what they have right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the nice thing about being a solo artist. It's like I've had the luxury of doing that without having to deal with 4 other guys or something, and a lot of management and all these other things. You're sort of obligated to become this money machine. You're like a machine that has to crank out. It's kind of I don't know, people who have successful bands, it's great, but then you're tied to this thing. Takes over your whole life, and I think that takes away some of your freedom. You go to perform, and a lot of the crowd, they just want to hear the old hits. They don't want to hear anything new from you, that kind of stuff. The key, like I said, it always comes down to the song. If you come up with something. The other thing too, that like Netflix reached out to me a couple of years ago, and we did 4 music videos, 3 of them for Netflix. They were Transformers, what do you call it, War for Cybertron series. And they used footage from the Transformers animated shows to go with my songs, and did music videos with those, and they came out really good, and kept things going in a lot of ways. And last year I did 2 songs for a martial arts film. It was very similar to Bloodsport in the storyline and the style of movie. It was like a martial arts guy, and anyway, they were featured in the thing, and there's a sequel going for that they're filming right now. And anyway, but it's one of those things, you get a song in this and a song in that, and then plus you have people to help promote it on the internet, the whole process, to get out there, and it's not easy, it never is, I guess, anything worthwhile. But I think people want authenticity. That's what, to me, I keep coming back to. You try to do something that's just gratuitous, and you just want to cash out. People can tell when something's not real.
Do you feel like when it comes to that popularization, though, like popularizing a song, and what you're saying is like, you think it's easily misconcepted, or even for misusing it, or even self-beneficial, despite them liking your music or them thinking, oh, this would be great for this? Do you feel in some ways it can be a double-edged sword for that artist? Like, it actually hurt them, rather than it's like, well, that's not what I was originally trying to get that song to be intended for.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like somebody takes your work and uses it in a way it doesn't jibe with who you are, and I get that. That's one of the things. You don't want to be considered a sellout, whatever that is. But I mean, all of us are just trying to make a living, but for me, it's always been about the music part. It's like, believe in what you're doing, and that comes through, as people can tell when something's real.
Do you feel that fans, rather, let's say it's just one song that they absolutely love, and not to say they don't dislike your other work or anything like that, but they just love that one song, that's why they like you? Do you feel like, into an aspect of things, again, once trying to get the music in rotation with that, I mean, how does an artist get themselves more identifiable, rather than just being, oh, they like that one song or a couple songs? And is that more that's the biggest challenge of everything else? Yeah,
it really is. It's you can get discouraged pretty easily, I think, and it's frustrating when a lot of people around the world, they think, oh, he's the guy that did the touch, and that's all I am, but until they don't know that I have this whole other body of work, recording songs and releasing stuff in Europe and Japan, and mostly in England. I'm pretty known there, and Australia and other areas, and even in the U.S. to a large degree. That's one of the cool things about the internet that's helped with that. But like I said, the internet, just everything's changed dramatically when they did that. It all started back in the 90s with that Napster thing. It was like, wow, you spend like $50,000 recording an album, and somebody could just steal it. You know what I mean? post it and then get it for free. It's kind of weird. It's like it didn't seem right. And of course, Apple Music, that whole thing where Apple just sort of took over the whole record business in a lot of ways. But it all began with that. And then, later as computers got faster and they were able to even download films, and now the film industry's all upset, because it's, you work really hard to create something, and then people can just take it, for free. It's weird. It's like, on the one hand, you want to get your stuff out there, but really, you also have to make a living, and if you're losing money, not a good thing either. We've all seen this whole thing, and now it seems like the internet has got so many things that it's just, literally millions of bands and songs and everything else. It's how do you cut through? How do you break through all of that? You know what I mean? Been, living in a van for weeks and months. It's okay when you're 25, but a mortgage and other stuff, it's a little bit different, thing. You have to get serious about your income.
There are artists out there that are sometimes having to be forced to do the whole quote 9-to-5 job, and then having to not 100% leave their profession or their career, or let alone their own passion. But oftentimes these artists have to go out to tour just to pay off from the album that they spent money to make. And the studio itself, that's like $15,000 just for let's say not even 4 songs, depending on how well you want your songs really developed and polished and everything like that. But do you feel like an artist needs to have a great plan? Now, nothing ever plans out, but a great plan financially. Not just dividing what on the tour, but let's say they want to go outside the U.S. That's just equally just as more as costly. How does that affect you when you're pretty much like the one-man gang type of guy with your body of work?
Yeah, you make a good point. Do other stuff as far as computer editing and so forth, as well as the royalties that I'm getting from stuff I did for years and years. You know what I mean? It's without getting into too much detail, it's fortunately, I've been able to fund my own recordings and fund my own albums, because a lot of people, they have to either get a record deal or there's really no other way, or you get some private investor to fund your recording. Let's say you have a 9-year-old who could sing whatever Journey or Steve Perry. There's all kinds of ways to break through, but I think I remember there was one band that had a video that went viral, and they became successful that way.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or any albums that you want to promote right now for all of us to check out if we haven't even checked it out. Anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, please. Just go on stanbush.com. There's also the Facebook and social media stuff on there. So, but yeah, stanbush.com, and a couple of film things that will be coming up. So, like I say, the new album is by far my best. Always remember, you got the touch.